Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Ian Ramon. I'm from Romania. I have been a web designer for several years until I actually went to a conference on healing with Dr. Eric Pearl. Dr. Eric Pearl, he is renewed international speaker, author, and a pioneer into a whole new level of healing. And I'm happy to be here with Dr. Eric at Ljubljana in the middle of seminars. And welcome. It's a nice pleasure to be here and share some of the insights.
Thank you for having me on your program.
Good. Would you please tell us how, from a chiropractor, normal doctor practice, you actually become known for miraculous healings or healings that are not normally explained?
Well, there were a few strange incidents that happened. I was awakened one night by a bright light. I opened my eyes to see what it was. It wasn't anything seemingly spiritual or metaphysical. It was just the lamp next to my bed for some reason turned itself on. And it felt as if I had been being watched while I was asleep, that someone was in my home. So I got up feeling, why don't we just say, a little brave and a little nervous. And I went hunting through the house with a knife and a can of pepper spray and my Doberman pinscher. I couldn't find anyone, so after about 15 or 20 minutes, I told myself it must be my imagination, and I went back to sleep. But on that Monday, when I went into my office to see my patients, I would adjust them, as I always did as a chiropractor. I would finish with them lying on their back, have them close their eyes and relax to allow the adjustment to settle into place. And I noticed that day I was feeling odd sensations in my hands. And as I would move my hands, I would see their eyes would rapidly dart back and forth. I'd see little muscles involuntarily move in their forehead, pulling at their eyebrows or pulling here around their mouth and their lips. When they opened their eyes, they told me they were seeing colors they'd never seen before, smelling flowers they'd never smelled before. They said they felt hands resting on them or gently stroking them comfortably. They said they felt my hands, and they started reporting healings, real healings. They were getting up out of wheelchairs and walking, some of them. Vision and hearing was returning. Patients were coming in showing laboratory results a few days later where their cancer tumors had disappeared. Some children with cerebral palsy or epilepsy were suddenly able to walk and run and play and speak normally, not have seizures, not need medications. Of course, this didn't happen with every single person, just like with medicine. Nothing happens 100% of the time with 100% of the people 100% the same way. But it happens to such a significant degree, such a significant number of people were being affected by this, that we soon began to recognize that something real was taking place. People started calling me up, asking me what I had done. My patients' doctors were calling me up, asking me what I had done. I said I didn't do anything and don't tell anybody. Of course, the more I said that, the more everyone wanted to experience it also, and soon people started asking me to teach this. And I said, teach it? You've got to be insane. I can't teach something like this. I'm standing here, I'm waving my hands in the air, feeling things. I mean, you go outside, wave your hands in the air, let me know what your neighbors have to say about you. But my patients would call me, and they'd say, when I drove home after my session with you, I got in front of my house, and before I could hit the little button to open the garage door, the automatic garage door opened by itself. Or I walked inside, and my lamp or computer started turning itself off and on and off and on. I felt sensations in my hands. I held my hands near someone in my family, and my grandfather could walk after the stroke, or my uncle regained his hearing. And that's when we began to recognize that once we interact with this more comprehensive spectrum of healing frequencies, what science today refers to as the Reconnective Healing spectrum, that something changes within us that not only allows us to receive our own healings, but allows us to bring about or facilitate healings for others.
Okay, so basically, what would be the difference between this healing? We could not probably call it method, since it not quite involves steps.
Since it's not a technique. Reconnective healing is not another energy healing technique. First of all, there's no technique to it. In order to access something this comprehensive, we have to allow ourselves to completely transcend technique. By doing that, because our techniques keep us locked into different subsets of the energy that's been here. By letting go of the technique, we access the fullness of the energy, and then we receive a greater gift. The energy transcends time and moves into aspects of light and information that many of the scientists feel have not been seen or witnessed here on Earth before. So we are actually accessing the fullness of what has been here within our little bubble of the illusion of time and space. And then, as time is moving faster, as our bubble is expanding and becoming thinner, this bubble of time is actually disappearing. We're accessing what's been outside of time. So it's not old. It hasn't been here before. It's timeless. But it's here now for the first time. So the Reconnective Healing spectrum takes us beyond energy into light and information that allows for things very different than we tend to see with our energy healing techniques, which include healings that have a tendency to be fairly instantaneous and have a tendency to be lifelong.
Well, I really would love to go a bit into the science of this, since actually in my practice, since I become a full-time practitioner, I love this work ever since I heard you saying. It vibrated to my soul so deeply that this is truth. And in my practice, I get a lot of registers of people snoring, and after the session I would tell, you were asleep, and they were saying, no, I'm not asleep, I have been conscious all day. So I actually filmed some of the people, and they were like, it can't be, I was really conscious, I was not sleeping. So I know there are some studies to have done about how can it be possible for people
There's a lot of things that happen during your Reconnective Healing session, including remaining conscious and snoring. And a lot of people will lie there during their session, be snoring, and be aware and say, now why am I snoring? I'm not asleep. Other people will find that they stop breathing, not in a frightening way, in a very peaceful way. They just suddenly find that they are floating in a state of oneness, sort of like a silence, a timeless awareness, where nothing is moving, they're not even breathing, and there's no need to breathe. Sometimes the people might say, and get nervous, and might say, oh my God, I'm not breathing, can I breathe, can I breathe, can I breathe? And they make themselves breathe, and then they realize that they actually enjoy being in that space of not breathing even more. There's lots of research, obviously, and to go into research is not really fascinating. I'll tell you briefly, there are studies where they cut leaves off of plants and they give them reconnective healing, and the leaves live up to 90 days without being connected to its stem, to its source. There are studies that show, 6 studies so far show that reconnective healing changes our very DNA, restructures, or as I like to say, reconnects our DNA, raises the level of light we emit, the coherence of the light, which is what the scientists attribute to these fairly instantaneous lifelong healings that reconnective healing brings about for people. Study after study after study shows how this changes our heart waves, our brain waves, how when you learn to do reconnective healing, your work as a practitioner, in scientific laboratories, your heart wave has showed up measured in that person's brain waves. But you know, the children with cerebral palsy who walk and run and play and speak normally, don't need their medications, don't have seizures, children with epilepsy who don't have seizures any longer, they don't care about the science. Neither do their parents. Science is a wonderful tool for us to begin to discover mechanisms. Some people are interested in the how and the why. I don't think we'll ever know the how or the why, but we'll get insights. Others are just thrilled with what they receive. Some people want to know how to make. a perfect New York cheesecake. Some people don't care as long as they're able to eat one.
Yeah. One of the questions I still get in people that come to me is like they call and say, well, I have this disease and this disease. Can this reconnective healing help me? Or does it work with only specific diseases?